Rev up those rolling rocks. That's right, because it's time for the Depression Chamber. Big slurp. I'm gonna see how loud I can slurp it right into the microphone. Get us all right in the mood. I can only imagine that sounds fucking terrible. But we're here, we're queer, and it's time to have some fear for our fellow man in the Depression Chamber. Give us a snort. Yeah, how did that sound? Let's shout out some of the people in the chat. We got Crispy Bacon, A Decaying Skeleton, JS, Rayless Nesses, Aethrium, Mudkip, Sated, SFC, Mr. Raccoon, Channel Official with a check mark, but I think that might be an unofficial official check mark. Heartsy Protsy is here. Let's sing everybody's favorite chant. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Heartsy's aunt has got to go. Hey, hey. That Roblox story was a fever dream. That is actually performing better on the main channel right now than a good number of my recent hard-working videos. So I think maybe highlight Depression Chamber story of the month might be a regular thing on the Simian Jimmy channel. I don't see anybody complaining about the slurping, so clearly I did not do it loud enough. I'd like to apologize to everybody for not doing the Depression Chamber live stream last week. It just got away from me. I think that was the first week in the last 2 years that I actually did not do it. So that was, a big disappointment for a lot of people. But here we are this week, finally, after a long wait. My hair looks great. Yeah, people were complaining about the Columbo hair. I don't really care either way. It was just getting a little hot, is all. Good to see you don't have a Jewfro anymore. Well, that means very little coming from a British person, Damaged Toaster. When is Eggy hosting instead of me? I'll send him, I'll CC him in the email or forward a bunch of stories to him. He can read them on his stream. I'd watch that. Classic monkey hair, yeah, like the Lego Man hair, pretty much. That's what I think what I'm going for, is Lego Man. The Depression Chamber revitalization and its consequences have been a disaster for the Mumkey race. Okay, folks, enough about me. Who gives a fuck? Let's go to some sweet, sweet stories. So if you remember last episode, there was a certain story with a certain title, and everybody said you cannot read that. That's a bad idea. Don't even touch that one. And evidently the person who wrote it was watching the stream, because as soon as the stream ended, they resubmitted the story with a different title. So, I mean, it's not like the material or the content of the story has changed, but they clearly want me to read it, so I'll click on it. This isn't too long. We'll give it a shot, but if it gets a little too creepy-deepy, we can get the fuck out of here and read something else. Again, we are rolling rock pilled today. Shout out to AVGN. Blacklist all stories written by women, but 90% of these stories are written by trans women. And that's almost my favorite genre of Depression Chamber story, is the trans, just the horrible things that happen to those people. It's a type of story I cannot relate to. So it's always interesting to hear about what they go through. But here is a story whose title we will avoid. Let's get going. The point of me writing this email is just to write out things I haven't told anyone. At the age of 11, my parents made the mistake of giving me a phone. There was no restrictions on anything, so I had access to things no 11-year-old should. I don't remember how I found out or what led me to download Discord. Okay, this is gonna be the running theme, I think, of this season of Depression Chamber, is children should not be allowed on Discord. But using is maybe the worst mistake I've made in my life. I made lots of friends on there because I could make myself seem a lot cooler than I actually was. This is why, and I'm not reading the story now, this is why I only go in servers that people have to pay money to, like my Patreon Discord server, because annoying 11-year-olds don't typically have access to $5. So it's a much more adult-centric chat room. I made a lot of friends on there because I could make myself seem a lot cooler than I actually was. I didn't have that many friends at school, so I made up for it online. I somehow ended up dating a girl I met in a server. I loved her very much, and those air quotes are because they put quotes on it themselves. She ended things with me after she found out my parents' political opinions. At 11, I had no concept of anything about politics. I was 11 and she was 14, by the way. I ended up dating her friend who was a tranny girl. This girl isn't even a girl anymore. This was when I started to share pictures of myself. After a while of getting bored of sending pictures to each other, we broke up. Ooh, Mako says my heart is actually broken tonight. Is that some sort of medical thing or more of a love sickness, Mako? A few months later, I found your channel. Watching your videos took my mind off of wanting more attention from people. I liked your humor and how your videos were made. I also found Rusty's channel, enjoying the knife game videos as much as every other 12-year-old fan. A few months before my birthday, I found a new group of friends online, and I thought they were cool. I started getting bad thoughts of hurting my new kittens, and I hurt one of them before! That's the most outrageous thing hopefully I'll read tonight. I shook my kitten as he was annoying me and getting into my stuff. I cried after this, hating myself for what I did. Ever since that day, I've been gentle with him. I told my friends that I had bad thoughts and I hate myself for it. They all blocked me and kicked me out of the group. Yeah, never apologize, folks. That's the lesson. There was one guy in the server who I started out talking to as a friend, but then he began to bother me for pictures of my body. I gave in as I remembered how I felt about sharing pictures. I was still 12 and he was 17. We sent pictures up until he blocked me over the bad thoughts. One day I was bored and decided to ask someone I was in a partly not safe for work server with if they wanted to share pictures. We did for a few months until she told me she was going to be turning 18. We deleted all of our pictures and chats. I then started to talk to people older than 18. I turned 14 and then I started talking to this guy I met in a server that had some of my best online friends in it. We started talking normally as friends as he was in his early 20s. Then I started to speak about how lonely I felt and how I didn't get much parental attention. He said I could send him pictures, so I did. I only sent a few, but we would talk about what we would do to each other if we ever met up. All of this happened in one weekend while I was at my friend's house. I remember sitting on her couch, my stomach hurting with the guilt of what I just did. I went into a panic attack and told him to delete all of the pictures. He did, but I still was having a panic attack. My friend never helped me as she was asleep during all of this. For 3 or 4 weeks we didn't talk. We've started talking again normally, ignoring everything that happened before. When I was 12, I started questioning if I was still a girl. I remember writing in my stupid girly unicorn diary that I felt non-binary. At the time, I was in a rental house that I was staying in during my Disney World trip. This lasted a year until I started feeling like a boy. I still struggle with this, but I don't really care about it. I'm not sure what I am, but it doesn't matter. When I was 13, my mother met a guy at her work. All I knew about him was his name was Justin and he had 2 kids. One day we were all at a car show that was right outside my house. Suddenly my belongings were being loaded into a truck and hauled to Justin's house. I cried more than I ever had before. I was leaving my childhood home. Moving into that house led to a horrible chain of events. Every time I think about it, I was to claw the skin off my arms. Justin had ADHD and was prescribed Adderall, which is typically seen as a drug instead of a medication. It got taken away because his ex-wife claimed he was a drug abuser. And then everything got worse. Justin started to yell and complain every night after he drank almost a whole case of beer. Every night. He drank a case full of beer. Every night I would say goodnight to my mom and lay in bed ready to sleep. Justin would start to yell and yell. I could see out my door. He would yell in my mom's face. One night it was worse. It was after Justin got his kids taken away from him. He was yelling about how he wanted his kids back, that he hated his ex-wife. I don't even know. He then threw one of the dining table chairs down the stairs. And then he threw the rest. Then he trashed the kitchen with the pots and pans and then my backpack. I ran into the bathroom, which had 2 doors, locked both, and then opened the counter drawers so no one could get in. I would have texted my father, but he was living in Florida at the time. That same night when the problems with police started. Justin called his ex-wife over 80 times that night. And then the police were called. They knocked and knocked and knocked. Justin would just yell and yell and yell at them to go away. I started crying, yelling back at Justin to just open the door. He never opened the door, and the police never came back for that instance. After this, the police did come several more times for different reasons. Once they came and Justin tried to back into the doorway, but he got tased and taken to jail. Another time, me and Justin were getting along like we usually do during the day, and the police walked up and arrested him without explanation. One time he was shouting and yelling the N-word, saying he was saying it because he felt like a slave. I told my dad, who was still in Florida. My dad stupidly called the police. At this point, I was terrified of police. Once the police showed up, I stupidly lied and said I was okay, and wanted to say even though I didn't. Justin decided he was going to start joking by calling me his girlfriend and saying he was going to ditch my mom. And then he made the mistake of texting his daughter about this. Why? Then his daughter showed her mom, and her mom, being Justin's ex-wife, who is in contact with my dad, showed him. My dad called the police again. I remember the panic I felt over this, crying and saying sorry. Why would you be sorry? He did it! I don't know. I guess there's not really much logic to a sad teenager or whatever. One day in December of 2022, me being 14 at the time, I was with my mother and my grandparents. We were talking about what we were going to do in the winter and summer, planning activities to do together. Little did my parents and grandparents know, barely any of this would happen. The next time I went to my father's house, I wouldn't be going back to my mother's. My father had moved back to my state by this time. The guilt I had about this ate at me for longer than I thought. I wanted to tell them, and I almost gave in. After I went to my father's, the police were called. I once again had to tell the police I was okay. Ever since then, I've been living with my father on an emergency living court order. Court to finalize where I'm living is soon, and I'm scared as hell. After all of this, I've tried to kill myself once. I've always regretted it. I'm also 3 years clean of self-harm. I'm on meds for anxiety, and I'm sure I have bipolar. I'm still getting used to things and don't feel fully normal. My cat Loki is pretty much all I have. I really love Loki. He keeps me alive. I just turned 15 in August, and I'm trying to make up for every shitty thing that's happened. I love your videos, Mumkey. Please continue making great content. And I'm not going to read that name. Okay. I did look over and see one chat that made me almost giggle. Mudkips said, Justin is a more complex character than Oppenheimer. What do you mean? Okay. Wait, what's today? There's a donation that came in between streams, and it was $20 fucking from AJ Tunnels in honor of the chat member who heard I was homeless in kindergarten and then commented travel cell. I don't know who you are, but that shit had me geeking. To your truly unhinged but mostly supportive chat, thanks for listening. To you, thanks for reading. And then Deranged Ape, I think, just donated to say, this season seems like the right time to do the long-awaited BB recap show with Luke and Lowres. Also, your letterboxd review of Blue Beetle was the funniest shit I saw on that app. Well, thank you, Deranged Ape. Literally this morning, I finished a brand new video about the cancellation of Luke Valentine. That will be up on Wednesday, I believe is when I scheduled it. So not only do I have a new Simian Jimmy video ready, but I even worked ahead. Anyway, let's Oppenheimer and Justin shaking hands in the chat. Please keep up the Depression Chambers, Mumkey. This is your best content, def. Well, that is kind of sad if the best thing I do is read what a 15-year-old wrote. I work so hard on the other shit. But I'm glad that, you know, there's something for everybody, and I'm glad so many people enjoy this for whatever reason. So let's do a poll now. Never heard of Luke Valentine? Will watch. I have a whole podcast with him on this channel from a few days ago, so go check that one out. But let's start a poll, see what we're gonna read next. And I'm basing these off of whatever title they gave their own email. Let's see. Okay, this one's kind of long. My mom left my dad for a woman, and my dad tried to kill himself. Okay. Mark as unread. Oops. So lesbian mom. My femcell to Stacy metamorphosis. Okay. I mean, that sounds like it's gonna piss a lot of people off, so I don't know if you're gonna get any votes on femcell to Stacy. I tried to poison my child with Down syndrome. I think that's gonna win. Huh. Poison Downy. Let's go for that. And what's one more? Promotional company Coral Video Studio YouTube. Yeah, let's do that one. The oppressive hog and cool and awesome homicide that never was. Okay, we'll vote on these. And the vote actually went through. Good. I was having some trouble last time. Poison Downey takes the lead with 77%. This show is the cure for those embarrassing childhood memories where you're like, I can't believe I did that. Yeah, I guess so. This is better therapy than wasting $1,000 a session on some fucking loser in his little home office or whatever. Like, once you hear how bad other people are, your own mistakes don't seem as bad. I was the child with Down syndrome. I survived. I'm your biggest, smartest fan. I mean, now I think you might be joking, but that's a pretty good one. Flirk, Respecter, thanks for the stream. Whenever I feel like an incel, these stories make me feel like a Chad. Well, you do have a Stone Toss NFT, so you've got to be a Chad, right? After 124 votes, Poison Downey is at 66%. Wow, Oppressive Hog only got 6%. That's sad. I can't believe Femcell Stacy got second place, but let's see this, whoever tried to poison their child. They sent this 3 times! They sent this 3 times from 2 different emails. Which one should I read? Okay, I'll read the newest one. Attempting to poison my child with Down syndrome. Wait, so is the poison Down syndrome that you're injecting into a healthy child, or is it just, you know, that's English syntax working at its best? Hi, Mumkey. I'm a big fan of your videos, and they've helped me get through quite a few hard times. If you're reading this, thank you. Anyways, my childhood was pretty good until about 8th grade when I started getting bullied for being fat. Kids used to call me names and throw things at me when teachers weren't looking, until one time when I tried to fight one in the bathroom and ended up getting suspended while the other kid basically just got detention. Going into high school, though, I started to lose weight and became a little more popular. In about 11th grade, I met what I guess would be my high school sweetheart, and we stayed together even after graduation. Her parents were fairly rich. I think her dad was a CEO or something, and kind of spoiled her, although she didn't really act like a stereotypical rich kid or anything. So when we were both around 19 or 20, they arranged an apartment for us and said they'd pay the first year of our rent. Well, all was going well until she got pregnant. We weren't married, which was a big no-no for her extremely religious Catholic parents. I suggested an abortion, but she refused. When her parents found out, they stopped paying the rent, which meant we'd have to move in with my parents because neither of us were making enough money at the time to pay ourselves. I have pretty supportive parents, though, and they were extremely helpful and helped us find a new, cheaper apartment before the baby was born. Even though I'd seen the pregnancy as more of a burden than anything up to this point, I was actually starting to warm up to the idea of being a father when my son was born. But the day of his birth was not a beautiful, life-changing moment for me. Even though there had been no signs before his birth that he would have Down syndrome, the first thought I had upon seeing him was, God, that's an ugly child. And quickly having him turned back into a burden. My girlfriend and I could barely pay for our cheap apartment, let alone all of the extra support needed for caring for a child with Down syndrome. I genuinely began to resent the strain this child had put on my life, and it was becoming unbearable. He was extremely hard to take care of and even borderline violent. By the time he was 4, I got so used to cleaning off shit that had been smeared on the walls and nearly having to fight him to go to bed that it was more of a routine inconvenience than anything. But I genuinely hated my life. Every moment I spent not working was spent caring for or cleaning up after my son, and he was also just about the only reason I was still with my girlfriend. I'd get about 3 hours of sleep a night, so maybe it was my suppressed rage or my lack of sleep that caused me to start endangering my son. I'd go to the store and just leave him in the car with the windows rolled up, or just sort of let him get lost sometimes. Even if I got charged with something, I would have been seriously relieved to just have him out of my life. The summer before he turned 6, I lost it. Every morning he'd have to take behavior-enhancing pills due to his constant outbursts. So one morning, I told him that the doctor said he needed to start taking more and basically got him to down almost the entire bottle. He got very sick, and around 20 minutes later, he had a seizure. I pretended to be sleeping on the couch, and my GF started panicking and woke me up to keep things under control while she called 911. An ambulance rushed him to the hospital, and much to my dismay, my stomach's son was pumped. That's a little backwards. And he ultimately survived. No one suspected me of anything, and everyone thought he just got into the bottle on his own. After this, I considered killing myself, but ultimately decided to just pack up and leave while my GF was at work one day. I haven't spoken to her or my son since. I've never told anyone about this, but I figured it'd make a good Depression Chamber story. Please don't report me to anyone, Jimmy. Thanks, love you. Ooh, oh my god. His stomach's a son. Yeah, what the fuck? Who's the retard now? The guy who wrote this story must be. This is attempted murder. Leak his name. The name says Doodle Bob, which I believe is a character from a short story I had to read in my freshman year of high school. Like a kid named Doodle or something. Or, no, is that just the SpongeBob character's name as well? Doodle Bob? I distinctly remember a short story about a kid named Doodle as well. Gotta find Doodle Bob. Me-oi, me-noi. This person is just a monster. Listen, I've never had a child of any kind, let alone a Down syndrome child who smears his shit on the walls. I can imagine that's not the path anybody wants their life to go. And, you know, 6 years of that shit, what's 365 times 6? Fucking what? Oh, what's that? 2,000 fucking days of putting up with that? Sometimes a man snaps. The Joker snapped for a lot less, okay? I don't think he was cleaning shit off of any walls. So, you know, who are we to judge? Randy says my brother Kenny did. Did what? What part of the story did your brother Kenny do, Randy? Doodle's story was about a brother who let his retard brother die in a hurricane. That sounds familiar. I'm glad I'm not crazy and somebody remembers that. Literally because religion? Yeah, I mean, it sounds like abortion might have been the way to go. Maybe he shouldn't have lost that weight. If he stayed fat, none of this would have happened. Oh, Randy says his brother smeared his poop on the walls. Now, was that recent or was that as a child, Randy? Most well-adjusted depression chamber submission. Okay, let's scroll down a bit. Maybe I'll go back a few years and see what we have in the archive here. I need to go through and delete all the ones we've read. It's just clogging up my feed here. Oh, man. Okay, here are some stories to vote on. We've got one called Autism and Bullying and Special Ed. So, autism, bullying. The Chronicles of My Abuse and Other Stories from a Tranny. You guys gotta stop making me say fucking slurs. Trans abuse. I mean, that's half the stories. Okay. An R-rated Charlie Brown story. I like the sound of that. R-rated Charlie Brown. And from fiance to restraining order threat. A new containment center of my autism. Hamburger. Imagine being this stupid. How I lost all my friends. How one bad day made me realize my whole school was trying to get me expelled. Okay. One bad day. That sounds interesting. Oh, my poor cat Blaze is scratching at the door. He wants to come in and hear these stories. Yeah, I had a feeling R-rated Charlie Brown was going to take the lead on this one. It's sitting at 45% right now, with about half the votes in. Kenny's favorite show is Charlie Brown? Okay, Randy, I think we'll have to do that one for him then. Send him a link real quick. My life feels over. I feel so old. I'm 15 now. Yeah. Let Blaze in. If Dramatically Red says so. Come on, buddy. Now he doesn't want to come. Come on, Blaze. Fucking asshole. Just stares at me. Just stares at me. Uh-oh, my dad's texting me about Big Brother. Let's see what he has to... Uh-oh. Why does the gay guy on Big Brother remind me of your uncle? That is a fucked thing for my dad to text me right now. Shout out to Heesam, I guess. Looks like the winner is R-rated Charlie Brown story. Yeah, sorry, Blaze just wanted to bother me. He didn't actually want to come in, I guess. Based Monkey Dad. Put Dad on the podcast. My parents don't want to come on this show. I've tried. I wanted to do a review of the upcoming... They're doing a season of The Bachelor with like old people. It's called The Golden Bachelor, and that's my mom's favorite show. So I said, hey, we should do a podcast reviewing the episodes each week. And she's like, fuck no. I guess she just doesn't want to talk to me in general, maybe. Not even off of recording. Where'd that Charlie Brown story go? There we go. Oh, here's a nice long one. This might take us a good 40 minutes. Maybe 30, I don't know. Force them at gunpoint. Yeah, my grandma rejected doing another video with me. My own parents don't want to. I am gonna have Patchy's wife on the show. My brother Patchy's wife. We're doing an episode this week about our short film. So she counts as family, I think. Anyway, this is an R-rated Charlie Brown story. Hey Mumkey, why would anyone waste their money going to see an expensive-ass therapist who just wants to put you on overpriced medication when we can just anonymously air out our dirty laundry to you and everyone else watching? There's a reason why the word therapist has the word rapist in it, because the only thing therapists are good for is raping your fucking wallet. This isn't really a story, it's more a very long list of shitty things that have happened in my life. Okay, I like the sound of that. Not all of them have affected me negatively, and not all of them are about me. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. Oh, and since you're an English major, at least I think you are, correct me if I'm wrong, and an accomplished writer, feel free to criticize my writing. Tell me how shit I am. My life started out shitty. I was an accident. As soon as I was born, my parents got divorced. They were actually planning on getting divorced before my mom knew she was pregnant. Turns out the whole time my dad was with my mom, he was cheating on her with another woman. He even had 2 kids with that woman while still being married and having a daughter with my mother. How can a man afford 2 families? What fucking job does he have that he still has the time for that? So when my mom found out she was pregnant with me, instead of doing the logical thing and aborting my ass, she decided to wait until I was born to go through with the divorce. My mother making terrible decisions is something that's going to be very common in this story. You know what? Let's just get this out of the way. I hate my mother. I can't stand her. She has been a pain in my ass throughout my entire life. Fuck her. My mother is a good-for-nothing, selfish, neglectful, arrogant, dumb fucking pill junkie who made the last 6 years of my life a living hell. She is an all-around addict. She's a pill junkie, an on and off gambler, a shopaholic, a smoker. She's addicted to Diet Coke. That's the worst of all. The aspartame or whatever, that'll get to you. Causes cancer, I think. She's also had these weird phases where she gets addicted to something sweet like peanut butter and Oreo milkshakes from Burger King and other stuff like that. She has made dozens of terrible financial decisions that only brought us closer and closer to financial ruin, making life harder for everyone around her. She's anti-Semitic. She has said multiple times that the Holocaust was God punishing the Jews for killing Jesus. Yes, that is literal Cartman logic that she literally believes. And no, she has never seen South Park. From ages 14 to like 17, she would insult me constantly, calling me lazy, good for nothing, ungrateful. She said I followed the philosophies of losers, all while sitting on her ass all fucking day watching TV shows and movies on Netflix. She's not even like a movie buff or anything. She just binge watches stuff until 3 a.m. without even taking time to process what she just watched. She's incredibly neglectful. She never taught me how to drive or helped me get my license or helped me with anything having to do with adulting. I had to do that stuff all by myself. Ever since middle school, I had to drag her and force her out of bed to take me to school because she was too lazy to just take me. She's an incredibly pathetic human being. About half a year ago, from when I'm writing this, after the death of my stepdad, we were in a very tough spot financially. I was trying to save the very little money that I had for whatever necessities we needed. My mother went absolutely mental when I refused to buy her cigarettes with the money that I was going to use to buy pet food for our dogs and cats. I could go on and on about how terrible my mother is, but we don't have until the heat death of the universe. Is the mom single, asking for a friend? Mom's been playing Roblox hardcore. After my parents got divorced, my mother sold her house. A bit later, she retired and started living off her Social Security and a disability check, which might have been okay for a single person, not someone with 2 kids, one being a fucking baby. Eventually, the 3 of us ended up living with our great-grandmother. One of my great-grandmother's sons also lived there. My dear great-uncle Mario didn't like us living there. So despite that not being his house, he kicked us out and we were only allowed to stay there overnight to sleep. So at the age 3, I was already homeless. I wonder if I hold the world's fastest speedrunning record for going homeless. When I was 4, my mother met my stepdad, who was a pharmacist making around $2,000 a week. So suddenly we went from being basically homeless to living a very comfortable upper middle class life. I can't stress enough how much better my life was thanks to my stepdad. Not only did he give us a home and a comfortable, stable life, he was a much better father figure than my dad could have ever hoped to be. He was a truly amazing man, and I love him far more than I'll ever love my biological dad. Actually, I already talked shit about my mom, so why don't I shit on my dad as well? Because I don't just have one shitty parent, I got 2. I really won the genetic lottery with these 2 assholes. My dad is a med school dropout, deadbeat, child support dodging loser, pathological liar, sexist, male chauvinist pig. I already talked about how he cheated on my mom with another woman and had kids with her. Funny enough, he hasn't even seen them in years. Their mother doesn't let him see them because he refused to convert to Pentecostalism with her. 3 months ago, I stayed with him while he was helping me move to where I live now. While staying with him, I heard him abusing his girlfriend, yelling at her about how she didn't clean the house well enough, and he would always complain to her when she didn't cook for him. He would also brag to me about how much pussy he got when he was younger. He told me that God had given him a gift with women. My dad is also a narcissist in love with the sound of his own voice. He constantly rambles about himself and about how cool he is. He once told me that he, at the age of 60, mind you, could kill any man in a fight with no problem. Now, enough about my crazy father. Let's get back to my awesome life. I had a really happy childhood for the most part. My mother and stepdad would argue a lot, but aside from that, I had a pretty good childhood. That was until the 6th grade. By then, all my childhood friends had either moved or switched schools, so I was basically alone at this point. This was before literally everyone had a smartphone, so it was hard to keep in touch with them. It didn't help that I started getting bullied by my classmates for my weight. I was a chubby little fuck back then. All of this made me isolate myself more and more from the world. I retreated into the internet, where I discovered my interest for political, philosophical, and religious discussions. By the time I finished middle school, I had become the stereotypical edgy 13-year-old atheist everyone here has been at one point. Honestly, to this day, I'm still that same edgy atheist teen, just older and more self-aware. Did I write this? I don't think I'll ever change. From the ages of 11 to 15, I was downright suicidal. I had no friends. I was suffering from anorexia from all the bullying I experienced, but at the same time, I was binge eating to make myself feel better. So I would normally starve myself and then binge eat to feel better. To this day, I still sometimes binge eat to feel better. I also had crippling social anxiety. I don't know how to talk to people. I don't know how to make friends. I felt so different from everybody else. Every day during this period of my life, I just wanted to eat a bullet. In the 9th grade, after spending half a year watching these terrible, cringy YouTube videos from this autistic edgelord called Jumpkey Moans, I made some edgy jokes about school shootings while in school. Oops. Some of those jokes were made during an English class presentation. As you can imagine, this didn't turn out well. The next day, I got called to the school counselor's office to discuss these jokes. The school suspended me until my mom would take me to a psychologist and come back with proof that I wasn't a danger to society. I was actually super fucking depressed when this happened, but somehow I managed to lie my way through that psychologist evaluation and came back to school the next week. Okay, time out. Why'd you have to lie? Why'd you have to lie? Are you a danger? Why'd you have to lie? However, this was not the last time I got called to the school counselor's office. On the first day of 10th grade, I realized what a mistake I had made not asking my mom to put me in another school. You see, the only friend during 9th grade was this girl 2 years older than me in the 11th grade. She told me she was actually switching to another school because of how much she hated this one. She told me that I should switch as well, but for some inexplicable reason, I didn't. And on the first day of 10th grade, I regretted that decision instantly. So that same morning on my way to school, I made it my mission to get expelled. And I did. That morning during the back to school pep rally, I was wearing these black round John Lennon type sunglasses. I think every American listening knows where this is going. Sunglasses and hats, the bane of the American education system. Teachers absolutely hate fashionable students, so it didn't take long for the principal to notice me in the crowd. She, over the microphone, called me out and demanded that I take off my sunglasses. I refused and proceeded to make a joke out of everything she said to me while the entire school watched. I was escorted out of the pep rally with over 700 students in complete shock and awe over my defiance of authority. I was suspended and later basically expelled. I was heralded as a legend among the students. Memes were made about me, calling me the MVP. Their words, not mine. After I left that school, my social life significantly improved. My new school was a lot smaller and had much better teachers for the most part, and a more liberal, progressive-minded school staff. The school was full of freaks and geeks that I could actually talk to and get along with. I made a lot of new friends that year, as well as some enemies. I even started dating my friend, let's call her Claire from now on, that I met in 9th grade. Claire completely changed my life. She was the reason I switched schools. She was my first kiss. I lost my virginity to her. It was thanks to her that I started to become less insecure about my appearance. I mean, if a hot older girl wants your 15-year-old cock, you kinda lose the right to be an insecure, self-deprecating little shit. Claire and I are still together to this day. There have been some tough, sometimes downright toxic times in our relationship. I've done a lot of stuff that I regret, but somehow 3 years later, we're still together. There's really no one else like her for me in this world. She's my other half, my soulmate. Now, back to school life. For whatever reason, I basically became a therapist for all my friends. Everyone would come to me to vent about their problems. Most of it was really trivial stuff. Bullshit high school romances and petty drama. Some people would bitch about their parents to me, but honestly, compared to some other parents, theirs seemed like saints. There were only a couple of people who I thought had the right to be as miserable as they were. One of those people is my friend Joel, a tall, lanky, geeky kid who I'm pretty sure will one day be an incel. He's a really cool guy and super nice. He's smart and he's not ugly, but for whatever reason, he's had a pretty lengthy history of rejection. Every now and again, he'll say some pretty concerning stuff about women and dating. Borderline incel shit. I'm afraid that one of these days he'll turn into an Elliot Rodger if he doesn't get laid. Joel self-harms and is probably in the closet about being bisexual. His friends are homophobic, and one time they punished him for flirting with another boy over messages. Another person who vented to me about their problems was a girl who we'll call Zoe. Zoe and I didn't really become friends until she went through a messy breakup with her boyfriend Richie. Richie was this two-faced poser, wannabe goth guy. Richie pretty much hated me from the beginning, but because he's a deceitful fuck, instead of telling me to piss off and not talking to me, he went around talking shit to other people about me while pretending to be cool with me. After Richie broke up with Zoe, she started opening up to me about everything she had been going through. Richie's reason for breaking up with her was her mental instability. Zoe was very insecure about her problems with mental illness. When she was 13, she was institutionalized for almost an entire year for stalking an ex-girlfriend of hers. Richie used her insecurities to make her feel like it was her fault he broke up with her. Right before their breakup, Richie told her that if she didn't seek professional help, that he was going to break up with her. That same week, she went to see a therapist. Richie broke up with her less than a month later. In reality, Richie was just interested in someone else, which is a valid reason to leave someone, but instead of being honest, he decided to emotionally abuse this poor girl. During a Valentine's Day school event, the students were supposed to write love letters to each other. Richie wrote one to Zoe and another to the girl he was secretly going after. Funny enough, after this girl found out about what Richie had done to Zoe, she rejected his advances. Heartsy says tall guys literally have zero reason to be incel. If a tall fucks says that they're an incel, that it's actually just completely on them, no sympathy. And Qwerty Rhino says based Heartsy. During that same Valentine's Day event, I anonymously sent a fake love letter to my spurgy friend Oliver. You know Butters from South Park? That's literally Oliver. I played a cruel prank on the most innocent kid in school. I had a female friend of mine write the letter in her fancy girly handwriting, and she even left a lipstick kiss mark on the corner of it. Oliver spent the next entire month looking for the person who sent the letter. I also played a similar prank on my friend Bernie. He was the president of the school's music club, and I was the vice president. Very prestigious positions, I know. Every week I left fake love letters to him in his backpack and told him to write letters back and leave them in specific spots around the school. Bernie was a hopeless romantic type who by the age of 16 had been in 7 different relationships, the longest one only lasting 6 fucking months. So as you can imagine, he fell for my prank pretty easily. I'm kind of a fucking sociopath. I genuinely enjoy manipulating people and playing with their emotions. I enjoy making people feel bad, especially if I think they deserve it. Now back to Zoe. After their breakup, Zoe and I became close friends. We vented a lot to each other. We used the other as a shoulder to cry on. We even went out a couple of times. One day, Zoe confessed she was developing romantic feelings for me. I really liked Zoe, and I thought she was really cute and wanted to fuck her, but I had just gotten into a relationship with Claire. So I just told her that I was flattered, but I wasn't interested. We remained good friends after that. Almost 2 years later, we started going out again. This was during the summer of 2020, so because of the COVID pandemic, we couldn't really do much. So we just drove around, drank shitty beer, smoked weed, and had sex in the back of her car. Which means I kind of cheated on Claire. I say kind of because Claire doesn't mind if I have sex with other people. She actually thinks that's hot. But the problem is Claire fucking hates Zoe. They never got along while they were in school. And I mean, honestly, what's the big deal? You're both bisexual. Who cares if you hate each other? Why can't we just have a hate-fuck threesome? Unbelievable, man. To this day, Claire doesn't know I had sex with Zoe. Zoe at the time was actually also dating someone else, this nerdy, very meek-looking vegan stoner pussy. So we both cheated on someone with each other. A month later, after the last time we went out, I called Zoe to see how she was doing. She didn't pick up. The call just went straight to voicemail. I messaged her, but she never received the messages. I even messaged her through Instagram, but she never responded. I continued trying to contact her to no avail. Eventually, weeks later, her phone number was disconnected. I tried asking some other people about her, but no one had heard from her. No activity on social media from her either. I even started looking for local obituaries, thinking she might be dead, but couldn't find anything. She just disappeared without a trace. To this day, I still don't know what happened to her. Is she dead? Did she get institutionalized again? Did she go to prison? Did her boyfriend find out about us and force her to stop being in contact with me? Was the sex so bad she just couldn't bear talking to me ever again? Did I get her pregnant and she secretly got an abortion and decided not to speak to me again? If that's the case, then good. Any woman I get pregnant should lose my number. Now, before we get to the final chapter of this story, we have to introduce one final character, my dear older sister. My sister is a pathetic bimbo, empty-headed, bipolar heroin junkie. When my sister was 19, she started dating this 30-year-old high school dropout junkie who had been to prison 3 times for multiple felonies. A year later, she ended up pregnant and decided at the age of fucking 20 to have a child with this man. I actually don't hate this guy. He's always been very cordial with me. He seems like a pretty chill guy, but this is not someone you start a family with. Skip 4 years later to the present day, and my sister, at the age of 25, was still living with my mom. That was until my mother kicked her out for the umpteenth time after she stole my mother's debit card to buy heroin during one of her manic bipolar episodes. Her daughter was recently taken away by CPS, and now my father and mother have to go to court to get full custody of my niece. My sister lost her job and she's about to lose her car because she hasn't been paying the monthly payments to the bank. My sister recently went into rehab. She was supposed to be there for 3 months, but left after a week. Now she's living in her car, begging friends and family she hasn't spoken to in years for money. Ironically, my sister is supposed to be a social worker. My sister really is the most pathetic person I've met. I'm waiting for the day I get a call from my mother telling me my sister died from an overdose or something. I'm gonna laugh so hard. And how am I doing nowadays? Well, I'm doing fine, I guess. I just turned 19. I moved to a shitty Midwest state town full of Mexicans and rednecks with my girlfriend Claire. We're not starving and we have a decent and cheap place to live. Things are going fine, I guess. I just feel empty and scared about what the future holds. Because of the death of my stepdad, now I don't really have the funds to go to college. I wanted to major in either journalism or psychology, but that's not really possible anymore. I'm not gonna get in debt just so I can go to college. For a while now, I've wanted to start a band. I'm pretty decent at guitar and I sing. Unfortunately, I don't know anyone that I can play with, and the local music scene seems fucking anemic at best. I want to write a fantasy novel. I also want to get into politics, see if I can make a difference even on the local level, which might be hard considering I'm a far leftist living in a conservative area. I think I might be trans. I don't have gender dysphoria, but I think I'd rather be a woman. To be fair, buddy, the real privilege is female privilege. A lot of us, I'm sure, would rather be a woman. That doesn't make us trans. You can still be proud of your fucking dick and balls just fine. Just don't put on the dress and you'll be fine. If I had the money to transition, I think I would. I'd be pretty scared to, however. I'm a somewhat masculine-looking guy. So if I transitioned and didn't look female, I'd kill myself. Many such cases. What's the deal, or what's the point in identifying as a woman if I can't look like one? There's so much stuff that I want to do, but I have no idea how to get started on any of them. If I haven't accomplished anything by the time I'm 23, I think I might just join the Air Force or the Navy and see where that takes me. Thank you so much for reading, Mumkey, and thank you for the thousands of hours of entertainment you've given us. Sincerely, go fuck yourself. I don't know if he should have called this an R-rated Charlie Brown story. I don't think Charlie Brown was a raging sociopath who wanted to manipulate people and chop off his dick. Super boring story. TTDs? Oh man, I don't know what that means, but there's a lot of them in the chat. Average leftist. Next story. Good thinking, Svi. What was doing well in the last poll? Maybe I'll just read it if there's a close second place, so I can't go that high. Well, fuck it. We'll just go with how one bad day made me realize my whole school was trying to get me expelled. It's not too long. Hello, I've been a fan of your content along with the Depression Chamber series for years, since around late 2017 going into early 2018. I wanted to submit this story as it has a connection to my bitter hatred of censorship and how I nearly was destroyed over false allegations regarding to my actions in the past and present. So to set the stage, I am in high school, and around 2020 I became friends with a girl who I'll call J for my privacy, along with this other guy, L, and this Asian girl later down the road, P. We were all close friends. We would go hang out after school, get pizza, go downtown, do all that teenage friend shit. This was until one day when I was in the car with my cousin, when she was telling me about how my friends have been secretly backstabbing me behind my back for months, specifically P. My cousin went into detail of all the shit she said about me, including shit about me being racist and discriminatory and all that bullshit. I have very edgy humor, which is something that people will hang you for admitting to have nowadays. I was obviously shocked by this, as me and P were close, and who I had fallen for a small bit earlier this year before realizing she is a lesbian. So, me being shocked, decides to tell all my friends about how much of a rotten bitch she is to get her blackballed from being anywhere near us. This is where my hatred for Jay began, as she swore to kick P out of the group. But on an event on Monday that week, Jay went on a deranged rant about how much she hates me, which she tried to focus all her efforts to bash in the point of how I was racist, homophobic, and how I was a danger to the people around me by claiming I wanted to rape others. This isn't a joke or hyperbole. She genuinely said I endorsed rape. Somebody in the chat said Jay kinda sus. In an ironic turn of events, during her speech about me, Jay went on an actual racist rant about my family. I am mixed race while I have the outward appearance of being white. A majority of my family is black. She then went on a rant where she made fun of me for being mixed race, and then she said to my face, "None of your family is black, you're lying, stop playing the victim." This bitch had come over to my house several times, and she met my family several times before. This is where the true downward spiral began. So I exploded at them sometime the next week, for how I believed. Since they always hated me, they were mooching off of me for my possessions, food, and exploited my goodwill for them. I had a theory that, because of how many days I frequently take off school, that on the days I was gone, they began conspiring against me behind my back, because randomly, everyone in that circle was giving their 2 cents about me. You don't just go from being best friends to 5 out of 7 people hating me. It was too sudden, which is why I speculate that they had been doing this to me behind my back. Where L comes into the picture is that he genuinely stood up for me, saying to J and P that I did nothing wrong and telling them to go fuck themselves. Unfortunately, J and P and shown L several times that they had sexual interest in him despite being lesbians, and had told me several times that they both wanted to and were going to fuck L. So L decided, while what they did to me was vindictive, sociopathic, and shitty, he was going to forgive them, cut ties with me, and never talk to me again despite realizing I literally didn't do nothing. So obviously I began to hate him over time too. The next term, which was term 4, was isolating and lonely. I pretty much had nobody, as I'm notorious in my school for how little of a fuck I give. This was until I learned from my cousin again that not only P was saying the shit about me, J and her friend, who I'll call Goldfish as that's the name I regularly insulted him with, had been chipping in too, and a legion of people hated me, with my cousin describing a specific story where she was sitting in a big circle with them and they started shitting on me, and literally, the dumbasses they are, asked my fucking cousin what she hates about me. So naturally, I began to actively hate and try to get back at the people who have pushed me down my worst mental health spiral that year. My whole school hated me. I had little friends due to the fallout, besides my good mates Tom and Patrick. And I decided that I would because they let me know how much they hated my tame, dark humor. I would try to piss them off as hard as I could by making more increasingly offensive jokes directly to them, which I nearly got suspended once for a funny-ass joke I said where I joked about how raping and beating the shit out of people with cancer scares the cancer away. So this is later in the term where I've cooled down. There's a really hot emo girl who they knew I've been trying to get with for the entire year. Well, me and her became friends and I was getting closer to asking her out, when P, the bitch, decides to go up to her and tell her that I actively want to attempt to rape the women in my class when the emo girl I was trying to bang has been raped in the past. What the fuck? So these fucking dickheads have fucked over months of my year and literally fucking cock-blocked me. Reasonably, I was very close to kicking the shit out of them. I was sick of this shit still happening after I hadn't talked to them in months. Which then, Jay and Goldfish, the fucking nobodies they are, then chip in saying P would never do that, I'm her friend. Which me and my pussy cousin, my posse... my cousin let me into, then bluntly tell them, if we catch you doing this shit again, we are literally going to kick the shit out of you. A sentiment which everyone in the group agreed with. Later that week, I then told J and P that because of the rape claim they had made against me, I was going to kick the shit out of them. Which Jay then does this big-ass apology tour about how she misses me and how she still cares about me after making false rape claims about me. I fake apologized to her and acted like the beef was over to her and my friends, just so she would stop fucking talking to each other and I could move on with this shit while still hating them. So they would stop talking about me and vice versa. This is where the story ends for now. There have been some updates, but I think if anything major happens, I'll come back into the chamber and update you on the story. This event in my life has not helped with my worsening mental health problems, and ruined 5 months of my year. I'll be back next time if anything happens. You know, I think last episode we had some real bangers, and, you know, this time, not as much. So how about this? I'm gonna do a search through my email. Looks like there's about 400 stories in there. I want you guys in the chat to tell me which word or which terms, you know, which phrases should I type in, and then we'll hope we get lucky and find a story that has, you know, that term in there. How did I feel about the Transitus Arion album? You know, I listened to it like 3 or 4 times and have not returned to it like since it came out. Might be one I need to, you know, revisit, but I didn't love it. Joe Rogan, Addict, Blacked, Pubes, Incel, Minecraft, Soy Jack, Incel or Racist. I'll type in Racist Incel and see if anything pops up. Racist Incel. Search. Only 4 pop up. One of them was a story from last week about child Nazis. We're gonna vote on these 3 that popped up. I don't know how long they are, but we'll see. Have you got over your self-inflicted humiliation by Rusty Cage yet? Sam, and thank you for the 5 pounds. Rusty and I are not on speaking terms after I found out he's writing at a college graduate level. I have to really get my skills up before I can speak to him again. Okay, so the 5 stories that have the phrase, or at least the words, racist and incel. One's called, Why Do Fireflies Have to Die So Soon? Okay, that sounds familiar. We might have read that before. But it says we have not. One's called Taking the Plunge. And the last one is just called My Depression Chamber Story. Okay, let's do it. Randy said, thank you, everybody. Oh, what happened to Randy? It's kind of close between Taking the Plunge and My Depression Chamber Story. Taking the Plunge takes the lead. Oh, wow. 250 concurrent viewers. Hey, 74 likes. Let's get that up to 100, baby. Come on, fam. Let's get my ass up to 100 likes on here. Okay, I think we'll be doing Taking the Plunge. It's up with 43%. Oh my god, 112 likes? That's all it takes is asking? No wonder why people always say like, comment, and subscribe in their fucking videos. You people don't think. You only do what you're fucking told. God damn it. God fucking damn it. We don't, donate $5 to Super Chat, do it! Psychic powers activate. Let's go to taking the plunge. Wow, 47%. I can't believe 50 of you motherfuckers liked it right when whatever, man. I guess I'm just gonna do that every 10 minutes now. Oh, don't forget to subscribe and like. Oh, this is a big one, kind of. Okay. Here is taking the plunge, and the words racist and incel appear about 3 times, it looks like. I'll change names for that. Anonymity, that's still one of those words I can't say. For a person in this story. It's not a story about some sad incel rejection or some shit. Damn it, that's the opposite of what we wanted! More of a brief story of my mental health and how I just can't cope with it. I've grown up my whole life in a very broken household. I have a mentally abusive father who is also racist. My entire life I've been bombarded with cruel statements towards myself from him, who I believe may also be the root cause of a lot of my mental health issues today. He suffers from epilepsy and autism, so people always sympathized with him and his actions, declaring that since he has mental health problems, he can't help it. But with that also comes fucking discipline, and I never took these statements to heart since I always figured that you have to have some sense of restraint and discipline even if you're in that mental state. When I was young, barely in school, I wouldn't say I was the skinniest kid, and he constantly berated me about my weight, calling me fat, a pig, a glutton, to the point where I just wanted to cut off my fat as a kid, a young, easily influenced child. I wasn't even in 4th grade at the time. My mum, British people. Hey, Soup Fungi Vivo, thank you for the brainwashed $5 donation. My mum always assured me that it wasn't anything to worry about while simultaneously not doing anything to stop him. I stayed like this for a while. Grade 6 was very rocky for me, and I started going through various friendship problems. At that time, I had experienced my fair share of backstabbing and betrayal from my friends, but some voice in my head told me that I shouldn't worry and that they don't mean it. It was also from this year that I started getting bullied. But it didn't really escalate until grade 7. I started off grade 7 with no friends at all, and part of me wishes that it were still those simpler times for me. I was bullied pretty severely. I only had one friend that I hung out with all the time, and for that I got called faggot a lot. I was just a punching bag to all the other kids in my grade, being punched, shoved around, and beaten up time and time again. When grade 7 ended, I was beyond relieved because my school only went up to grade 7, so I could finally change schools up to grade 8. Sneed's Feed and Seed, thanks for $2 instead. Grade 8 started nicely for me. I found myself in a small group of friends, but eventually reality started to seep through the cracks. My friends who I had known at the start of the year were gone. While I do hate my dad, and also berated me with shit like, your dad should have died in World War II. For context, my dad is a Russian World War II survivor who was held in 2 concentration camps. How could that be? That was 80 fucking years ago. And other various things like that, obviously implying that I shouldn't have even been born. While this stuff doesn't affect me today, it's still upsetting to look back on. I had found another friend group and eventually stopped hanging out with my previous one. One of my friends from that previous group confronted me about how he treated me and apologized for everything he did. At this time, I was still used to being everybody's punching bag, so an actual apology was very touching to me, and I accepted it gladly. However, this apology came at the cost that he instead became a complete pussy and couldn't hear a joke towards him, and that he wouldn't take offense to. Even if the joke wasn't personal, like the ones that he pulled at me. Again, I didn't really care. In this new group, it was consistent mostly with girls, but one particular one I'll call Violet, to clarify again, this isn't a real name, who I ended up developing a crush for. The same month I had an incredible traumatic experience. My dad was doing his run-of-the-mill bombarding me with rude comments for no reason. I had grown so tired of this that I shut him up. I threw everything off the table that he had on, including drinks and food. There was also a pair of keys on that table. Once he leaned over to pick everything off the ground, I was still hitting everything off the table, including the keys. The keys struck his head and he was bleeding everywhere. He got up and chased me to the kitchen where he'd grab a knife and attempt to stab me. Luckily, I was stronger than him being an 80-year-old man. I was mentally scarred for a long time by this. We'd eventually make amends, however, but the thought still lingered on my mind. Me and Violet became very close friends. We talked to each other after, before, and during school every day. I couldn't help but hold back my feelings, and eventually the time came where I asked her out. Much to my surprise, she had said yes. Me having not done anything like this before, I was pretty proud of myself. The details of this relationship aren't interesting. Even though we were young, we did end up doing shit that we shouldn't have. The relationship was probably the best thing that had ever happened to me, ever. I should also note that my dad was an arsehole about this, and where the part that he's really racist really shines. He hated anything and anybody that was Western. He despised Americans. He also disliked the Australians, despite us literally living in Australia. Wait, they say mum over there too? What? No, don't say based. No, fuck you, anti-American motherfuckers. No, American L. No. Western hating Chad, based. How many? It's fucking 7 p.m. here. You fuckers should be asleep if you're across the pond. Come on. What time is it over there? Okay. Violet was Australian and he hated her for that. He was also a very derogatory and shallow person. Once I was in a video call with her and he looked at my screen and said she had small tits. I hit him over the head for this, bitch. Hey, some men would say that's not a bad thing, so maybe you're, just being a pussy. Like all things, nothing stays functional for long. Violet was an incredibly unstable person, and she'd harm herself a fair few times, which all sent me into an uncontrollable breakdown. I had never had to deal with this ever before in my life, and I didn't know how to handle it. The worst breakdown I had in class was just after lunch. I had sat down and immediately I was sent spiraling into a depressive state. My friends sat next to me and just watched. When I began to calm down, one of them asked if I was okay, and this just triggered me to start bawling my eyes out again. It got so bad that I was asked to go see the counselor. This was the first time I'd ever have to do something like this. And it was probably my only good experience with a counselor. He was a really nice man and I do miss him, but he resigned from his position at the end of the year. The relationship stayed stable enough until the summer holidays of school. I was in a constant depressive state the entire holidays, not being able to see Violet because of the Australian fires and being under constant barrage from my dad's outbursts. I was left exhausted and depressed from the summer. It wasn't till February 18th, barely after summer break ended. Man, you guys really are upside down over there. That's fucking summer ended February 18th. I guess I'm very uncultured about anywhere other than here. Violet had approached me and said we needed to break up. Immediately, I went into a breakdown, my worst one ever, and to make it worse, she did it in school where everybody could see me. This depressive episode has lasted me until today. I never lashed out at her or anything, but I repulsed her so much that I refused to talk to her anymore. And now is where I take the plunge. I'm not self-diagnosing. I haven't been diagnosed with anything. No depression, no anxiety, no bipolar. I'll just list off all I feel. Nothing. I don't feel anything in my stomach when I'm meant to feel happy. No warmth whatsoever, and I miss that warm feeling it used to bring me joy, but now I feel empty. I feel no motivation. I have school going on, so I need to fucking work, but I just can't. I don't see the point in doing anything anymore, and I just want to lie down and fucking die. I watched my grades drop. I used to have one of the highest GPAs in my school. Grade point average, just the average grade, yeah thanks. And dropped to minimum passing grades. I lost motivation to do anything. When I wake up, all I wish is just to go back to sleep and something to end it all. But eventually, sleep wasn't enough. My dad liked to scare me, and sometimes when I'd sleep, he'd just sit up and stare at me while I tried to go to sleep. This developed into pretty bad insomnia, and now it takes hours and hours just to feel a little tired. I also developed some strange thing where I feel anxious I go into an uncontrollable episode of shaking and heavy breathing, and it doesn't stop for hours. This breakup alongside my dad's constant narcissism drove me round the bend, and I eventually started having suicidal thoughts. I would self-harm and sometimes slit my arm all the way down to my elbows in the hopes that I'd bleed out or something. This was something behind the scenes until fucking Violet found out about it when I vented shit to her, and she told my mum everything. My mum ended up taking me to the counselor where she arranged therapy sessions. I was forced to repeat everything to the counselor, my personal practitioner, and my mum. This was the lowest point of my life. Nothing made me happy and nobody talked to me because of my personal isolation from everyone. This was early 2020. I still haven't had a single therapy session. My mum finally decided to control my bastard dad's behavior, and she finally moved us out of that broken household after 14 years. I still feel everything today with this shitty self-isolation now more than ever. Doing work from home is the most redundant and unmotivating thing that I'd rather fucking die. I still feel empty, unmotivated, and I'm still not over Violet 4 months after the breakup. I still have anxious, shaking fits, and my dad calling me a fat loser for my entire childhood has led to some poor eating habits. I don't eat anything for days and barely eat when I do. I'm fairly skinny now, but I can't stop feeling like a fat piece of shit about eating. I'm at a very low point in my life and have been for months on end now. I've grown to become incredibly unstable, and worst of all, my mum still expects me to visit my dad despite everything. I dread every moment with him. I dread waking up in the morning just as much. I say to myself, please somebody or something just fucking kill me because it's all I want now. I don't want to live out this terrible fucking life I've been handed. All my friends hate me, and the small bits of joy I find are in games now. And to make shit worse, some dumbass trans bitch that I don't want to associate with anymore tried making up rumors about me to turn my friends against me. I want help, but I can't find any. I just want to end it all. I know you probably won't get around to reading this, Mumkey, but I'm just 14 and I can't escape any of this. And with the slowness of the world right now, I haven't been able to find a therapist. I don't know how I can handle this, and I just want to end it all. While writing this, I had a small breakdown. Thank you for reading, if you even did. That's crazy. A fucking 14-year-old during COVID has a dad who was in a concentration camp? I thought they were all fucking dead by now. Like, how many last Holocaust survivors are we gonna have? Yeah, 14 with an 80-year-old father? Yeah, I don't know, man. Anyway, let's get a new term going. You know, incel racist did not give us what we were hoping for, so fill up that chat with what I should try next. And we're up to 157 likes. That is insane. Thank you guys. We pretty much doubled it, I think. Okay, somebody said poop. Poop, chud, Roblox again. Should we go for another Roblox story? Maybe we'll get lucky again. Channel deleted. Well, I submitted my own story. Poop, lots of poop. Well, how about Roblox and poop? If there's one magic story that has both, we have to read it. Roblox poop. Nope, no, there's no results. Okay, we'll go with poop. Wow, there's a lot. Wait, no, where'd they all go? Where'd they all go? Search for poop. I don't know. It looked like there was a bunch, but then they just go away. Yeah, I guess not. The oppressive hog story was written by somebody named Poop, but that might be the only one. The Scrumpky Scones sadness story of Poopy Butthole. That seems like a joke one. Okay, so poop's not working out. I guess I'll try Roblox. Search for Roblox. We've got 3 unread Roblox stories. One of which was sent this morning, so might not be a real one. No, these are all like joke ones, I think. My dad walked in on me sucking my own dick while watching Roblox hentai. I think I might have read that last week. But no, this one came in this morning, or 10 hours ago, and it's not too long, so I think I might have had this in the poll earlier. It's hard to remember. My mom left my dad for a woman, and my dad tried to kill himself. Yeah, that was a lesbian mom we had in the poll. Don't mind this retard-ass email name. I made it when I was like a little 12-year-old. Barrett Privateer interrupts to say, damn, this dude is just a pansy with spaz dad. Sad his high school GF left. Hopefully the next story actually had some rage, traumatic events. Probably not this one. So I don't know where to start, but I'm only 16, so it isn't very long. I was born with Asperger's, major depressive disorder, and bipolar disorder. These didn't get diagnosed until 14 or 15. So I was born out of wedlock. On the very day I was born, it rained so hard it caved in my sister's ceiling. It rained every birthday until about 12, and it doesn't rain much here anymore since then. I think life was good before the divorce. My dad was relatively happy. I was always depressed and never knew how to react to getting in trouble, so I'd self-harm literally ever since birth. My mom had this friend since high school, and she was really involved in our lives ever since birth. She was nice and really helpful. I have 2 sisters. One is from another man before my parents got together, and the other was born after me. I don't know exactly what all happened, but she left my dad for a woman when I was 4 years old. So now, a broken home, we moved out into a crappy wooden house with no insulation in one of the hottest places in the US. My dad dropped around 50 to 100 pounds and was really depressed. He didn't tell me till this year, but he attempted suicide. My mom, on the other hand, was happy with her new wife. She was good for the first few years, but now she's just a grouchy bastard. I didn't become self-aware of my depression till about 3rd grade. That is when I started stress eating and bored eating. I ate a shit ton of food every day. So because of this, at school I was getting bullied. Is that the theme tonight? Like, this episode's all about fat kids getting bullied and the worst parents of all time? I think the title's writing itself for the, you know, when I had to write a little title for each stream. If you guys have any suggestions for the highlights I should put in the title, let me know in the chat and I'll try to catch them. I'd like to mention that I had got on Discord around this age, which was like 12. I, of course, got groomed by several men. They got me to send pics and whatnot. It was so fucked, and he was my best friend, but he was about 16. This left me severely depressed, and I ended up fucking hating myself for a while after that. This is when I started going to therapy. I was really good at lying, though, at this time, so I got away with a lot. I just kept getting groomed. They made me do awful shit, and I regret all of it. I would take away my internet access if I could have back then. This is also when a strong porn addiction arose. For some reason, when I was little, I didn't think I'd ever make it past 13. But on the month of my birthday, I got into a car wreck that was literally inches from killing us. We were ran off the road into this ditch that drops off 20 feet into a highway. I honestly laughed about it even when it happened because that was my kind of luck. My birthday comes and school starts. I get bullied a lot in 6th grade, but I was too ignorant to realize. I had been bullied from 3rd to 6th now. I was sick of getting bullied, and finally my tall genes were kicking in. This is also when quarantine started. I lost a shit ton of weight and grew tall. I went back to school about mid-7th grade and joined athletics because I wanted to be a jock. Too bad my autistic ass was so bad at socializing, but it worked in my favor. They liked me because I was a little weird. I was pretty much gooning every day in school. What the fuck does that mean? What do you mean? I was insanely horny all the time, and I probably should have gone to therapy or something for it because it was really bad. I also became a Nazi on Roblox, LMAO. I shout the N-word like everywhere. My dad is very liberal, so I got in trouble and I'd fight with him a lot about that stuff. I joined football in 8th grade and spent most of my time away from home. I'd be at football till like 8 at night. I hated my family and my mom for being lesbian and my dad for being a liberal and weak. About mid-year, my depression hit like a fucking truck after being rejected by 2 girls in like a month. I became a complete incel and started listening to Negative XP and Fried by Fluoride. I got really depressed and started looking into Shmuel Schmooters and got really into Columbine and Sandy Hook and Virginia Tech. I was so interested in Virginia Tech that I stopped talking for 3 months to be like Joe! Jeez. I got my autism diagnosis because of a shooter and a stupid Negative XP song. They put me on a shit ton of meds that I didn't take the first year. Then I had a psychotic break, and so I started taking them. I get impulsive and try to kill myself or others. I related so much to all of it that it made me so fucking depressed. I was planning a Shmuel Schmooting, but I didn't tell anyone and ended up not doing it. Then the year after was even worse. I had no friends and was ignored by the entire time I was there. My depression came back stronger this time. I tried to hang myself. I started to black out, and so I stopped and got really excited and told my mom I loved her and all this stuff. I wish I had done it that day, honestly. Instead, I have drugged my family through all this shit. I got better for a couple of weeks, but ultimately got depressed again. This time I had found a gun and was planning a Shmuel Schmooting. The day before I planned to do it, I broke down crying to my dad, and they took me to the hospital, and then I got put in a psych ward. Surprisingly, I wasn't arrested. They put me in the psych ward for 5 days, and it felt like prison. It was so fucking bad. I was happy after that for the longest tome I've been in a really long time. A month later, I got a GF after 2 years of not having one, and I loved her. She had one small issue though. She liked to argue a lot. I had to break it off with me, and with me dreading going back to school, I tried to kill myself again. So now my whole family is worried for me. I have been cutting and looking into that silly stuff again. My story really isn't sad, it's just me being a retard that ruined my life. I have a little longer to live, Mumkey. I loved your channel for so long. Thanks for everything. Longest tome in a really long time, that's right. Candor, we don't need to skip it, it's over. It's over. How old is he? I think he was like 15 or something, right? How these people, like, how are these 14-year-olds finding me? I haven't posted anything good in like 5 fucking years. Where did they latch on at? When they were 9? Whatever. Gooning ever since birth. Streamlabs won't load for me. Maybe I've been banned. It could be. Yeah, very well could be banned from Streamlabs. I mean, it's still loading for me. It's whatever. Okay, we're at about an hour and a half. Give me more keywords. What should I type in? What kind of story do we want to find? Wait, it says ads are playing? Well, I don't know about that. But I don't see anybody talking in the chat anymore. Maybe I need to go to live chat. Type in mum. Ad block is fine by me. I didn't tell it to fucking play an ad. Trans, Brony, Mumkey Jones fan meetup. I doubt that's gonna... I'll try that. Mumkey Jones fan meetup. Yeah, there's one. But it says we've already read it. And also all those words are in there, but just like not in that order. Like, hi Mumkey, first I want to apologize if this ends up. It really counts up if it was part of a different word. Whatever. Sometimes the chat breaks for a minute. Okay, yeah, I was like, what the fuck? Did we get banned again? What the hell? Gooning. Lots of gooning. No, that's the only gooning story. Thank goodness. Yeah, there's no results for goon. I almost don't believe that. Let's just make sure it's working. I'll type in Sigma. That's gotta pop up. No, there's no Sigma either. That is just bizarre. What if I type in sad? Yeah, there's lots of sad. There's no Sigma, there's no goon. You people are letting us down. Gilf? That's a... Shit, Gilf. Wait, why is there so many for Gilf? What? Wait, if you type in Gilf to Gmail, it is automatically highlights grandma. All these stories are just grandma. How does it know? What? Oh, showing related results. That's disgusting. God, I was so surprised that like 25 GILF stories popped up. Oh my god. Grandma fingering herself. If anything pops up. No, there's nothing. Oh my god. I'm sorry. I let that take me over a little bit. Type in Jewish. $1 million extreme. No. How about a MDE? Oh man, I'm almost tearing up from the fucking MILF shit. Or GILF. That might be one of the funniest words that has ever existed is GILF. BoJack Horseman. Anything? There's one unread story from BoJack Horseman, and it looks like they're quoting the show. Oh wait, this is... This is from the XE... This is from the Twitter e-girl who was arrested for being a school shooter. I guess this is their previous story. Should I read the prequel to something we read last time? Wait, isn't this person in the chat right now? Oh, man. Okay, well, Sneed's Feed and Seed said yes, I should read it, and he gave me $2, so... Okay, here's the prequel. Hi Mumkey, nice to meet you. Please forgive me for the fact that my first time interacting with you are under these bad circumstances, but my online friend RedMoth27 suggested I should communicate to you via my Depression Chamber story since you're continuing this series of streams. I guess you could say that I have interacted with you before though, since you replied to my sappy remark about your stream brightening up my day. I donated on your Chillin' Like a Villain stream, and you've reacted to my short film director's cut, but this will be our first time properly interacting, if you know what I mean. Before we start, you can call me Damaged Toaster. I'm F18 and from the UK. Let's get into the Depression Chamber, and boy, do I have a story for you. This might just be repeating what we heard last time, but I guess we'll just go through it. Let's go back to the beginning. My mom and dad divorced when I was 1 year old, so I never had a semblance of a happy family situation. They've always hated each other. My father gets drunk and spews stories about my mom. Yeah, no, we read this. We read that part at least. I don't know how much of this is going to be the same. Let's see, there's a follow-up email. I wasn't expecting to email you a second time, but a new circumstance has come up. If you didn't notice already, which I doubt, I got into an argument with somebody in the comments section of the Short Film Festival stream part 2. I'm really sorry for this inconvenience, but realized I could probably add this on to my Depression Chamber story. I didn't want to talk about it originally, but you deserve an explanation. I used to be a Twitter user with 3,000 or so followers, and a guy decided to target me with his group called the Rapist Group Chat, a pro-rape group. Initially, it started as him, an adult, trying to get nudes from me, a minor, at the time of this situation, to which we've heard all this shit before. I'll just read the BoJack Horseman part. Whatever. No, we're not reading this again. Don't just resend the same shit, very slightly altered, you fuckers. Yeah, the chick who was fucking with incels on Twitter, then they got mad at her. Somebody named Creeper King wants me to search trans Discord little sister, so name fucking checks out. Jesus. Search obese, okay. Ball frog? No, you're right. Ball frog. No items match! I'd be depressed if I couldn't beat ball frog, which is just what I am. The story, why do fireflies have to die so soon, has popped up again, so I think it's fate. Let's do it. And, wow, a little bit lengthy, but that's fine. Let's do it. Gilf Cell. Search Gilf Gooner. Ballfrog made my dad leave my mom and start drinking. Gay ass title. Well, let's see if it's a gay ass story. This is Why Do Fireflies Have to Die So Soon? Hey Mumkey, glad you were doing this show again, and hopefully you saw it because you noticed me in chat, be it on YouTube or Twitch. I always give my Amazon Twitch Prime subscription to you. Damn it! Should have stayed on Twitch! I'm also the guy who called into the Mumkey and Big show on my webcam mic and played The Price is Big, so I'm not sure where to start, and this is going to be a long one, so here I go. I was born April 1st, 2003 in Long Beach, California to mixed-race parents. We were quite wealthy and they had a property-owning business. At one point, I think they were even millionaires. However, they began to have relationship struggles and were deciding on getting a divorce. 2 years later, however, they decided to have another child, my little brother, to see if they could patch the relationship, as they believed my mother could monetarily support having 2 children. Well, as you can imagine, it all came tumbling down with the housing bubble of 2007. They specifically had taken out a lot of loans they couldn't pay because of diversity quotas, my dad being Mexican, and we were an economically and emotionally broken family. My mom moved into my grandmother's house for a long time and eventually had to live on her property at a discounted rent. My mom thought that my dad had been having an affair with one of our old tenants, as the two began a relationship shortly after the divorce. My dad had been having substance abuse issues. My mom's general strategy to try and improve their relationship was to give him ultimatum, one of which was saying that she'd only get back with him if they got married. I wonder why their relationship failed, but he and his new girlfriend began doing copious amounts of drugs, trying to act clean when my brother and I came over. One time I came over to our old house alone because my brother was sick or something, which probably saved my or his life. My dad had kicked his girlfriend out, but sometime over the weekend she broke into the house through a window and began threatening him with a shard of broken glass. I remember waiting in my room with a toy lightsaber, I believe it was Luke's from episode 6, and attacking her when she passed through. I don't remember much, but in the confusion, my dad swept me up and escaped in his car, leaving me with my grandmother on his side. In California, we have a 3-strike system, sorry Mumkey, where, oh I get it, where if you have 3 moderately severe crimes on your record, you go to jail for a long time, and my dad's girlfriend already had 2, so he took the heat for her. Some other time during their relationship, I'm not sure if this was before or after, but the 2 went up to a mountain village for a drug retreat and took their dogs. Our boxer, Mo, got scared and ran out of the van. My dad told us she'd been hit by a car, but my mom found evidence that she was still alive, and she and my grandma went looking for her and found her. My life wasn't really eventful for a while until 3rd grade. Towards the beginning, we had a basic assignment, and I blew it off, so I just jotted down some gibberish. The teacher took me and my mom into her office and threatened that she'd put me in the special needs classes if I didn't do my work, and said that I'd get put in honors classes if I did. Although I really liked this teacher and still do, this put the fear of God, or the closest thing to it for an 8-year-old, in me. I'm not sure if she used the honors classes to entice my mom, but she got on board with it and would strawman everyone who wasn't in my classes as special needs unironically. She did something similar to my brother to a more wicked extent, but I'll get into that later. It's like how Jehovah's Witnesses chastise all worldly people, if you want an analogy. It was a sick worldview. When I was in elementary school, with the exception of 2nd grade, I was forced to stay at an after-school program hosted by the local YMCA recreational center. Although I don't remember it much as a 1st grader, when I returned as a 3rd grader, things had changed a lot. The instructors were outwardly abusive towards some of the children and became that way towards me soon after. They have their own torture for each grade level. For kindergarteners and 1st graders, they'd often roughhouse uncomfortably or yell at them. And there were a lot of special needs students that they treated like absolute shit. They would often fake out the 2nd and 3rd graders or just grab them and mess with them. The 4th and 5th graders, they would actually beat and fist fight, with them often tripping us and then getting on top of us to attack us. They were incredibly rude, authoritarian, and treated us like dogs for doing simple things like walking or wanting to draw or do something else when they wanted us to go outside. They also tried to fan the flame of drama between us and got the kids to hate each other more than them to distract us from the abuse. In the 5th grade, one of my best friends joined, and I finally felt like I had a place there, and I enjoyed my time because I had an intellectual equal. But it was also because they couldn't hurt me when I was by him, because he didn't have his standards lowered so substantially. However, he began noticing how they treated the special needs students when one boy said fuck and they made him scream and howl uncontrollably while yelling over him. It's just sick what these people did. After a while, their urge to hit me grew so large they told my mother and my friend that my friend was a bad influence on me, and told me if they saw us together they'd tell her again and I'd get punished at home. I avoided him until he asked me why I was, and I told him verbatim that it was because they had told my mother you were a bad influence on me, and he left the program and I got punished because they weren't being paid for abusing me. I then realized how sick the whole thing was. I told my dad because I told my mom countless times over the years, and she never believed me, and he worked on suing the organization and having the main director fired. His name is Peter, and I forgot his last name, but he's a piece of shit to such a degree I could put a bullet in his head in front of his wife and daughter and sleep easily. They'd probably be glad if I did. In the 7th grade, my best friend, someone else, left the school for a charter school because he'd been bullied by the teachers. This will come into play later. Come 8th grade, my dad starts talking about having a rite of passage for me. I didn't understand the significance of this until more recently, but I was on board and we decided to go to Japan. I wasn't a weeb yet, but I was super into Godzilla, and if you watch some of my YouTube videos, you can see I have dozens of figurines on my shelves. This is also relevant because in the 6th grade, my dad took us all on a trip to see Godzilla Fest, G-Fest, as a summer trip. My mom was suspicious my dad had this much saved up because he often struggled to make rent. I don't want to really reveal anyone else's identity, but my father is a public individual and I think it's relevant to the story. Wow, okay. My name is Diego Dominguez and he is Kurt Dominguez. He's an old punk band photographer and tried running a business where he sold records out of a truck like a food truck for goods. He renovated a senior citizens bus so people could walk around and inspect the merchandise. It's called the record truck. If you're not sure who my dad is, he's the Latino guy with the white hair and one strip of black hair, like the opposite of Guts from Berserk. It was definitely enough for him to make ends meet, but not enough to pay child support. But my mom still doubted he could afford a trip to Japan. Lo and behold, he makes all the money. On a trip to my grandpa on my mom's side, the two of them announced they wouldn't let us go because of tsunamis and earthquakes, and I was disappointed, but it was obviously just because they didn't want him taking me to a foreign country. He was incredibly distraught and tried to sue my mother over it, but she manipulated me into telling him I hated him, which wasn't true, but I started seeing him through that lens. All the times we had to sleep in someone's basement, living in ghettos, crazy girlfriends, she made it all seem like he was doing this because he didn't care and thought of us as secondary in his life. But the year ended and before the year ended, he told us that he'd been considering killing himself over how little control my mom gave him over me and my brother. I remember that 13-year-old wrote into this show and we were all cringing at him, and it's probably because we all felt that way when we were younger and realized how stupid it was now. I had a similar occurrence when I referenced a Filthy Frank meme and a teacher interpreted it wrong and I got sent to the counselor. I vented all of my frustrations and she told my mom to get me into therapy. It didn't help at all and was a huge waste of time. Remember that friend I mentioned? Well, I was informed that he had attempted suicide because one of my friend's little brother knew his brother. I bet you know where this is going. I'm cringing while writing this. I wanted to get a bunch of people to tell them they appreciated him and got people to sign a large Valentine's Day card for him. I kept this a secret from my mom and ignored my close friend circle, all telling me it was a terrible idea. I went through with it and lost a friend and a lot of respect for my peers. Much later on, I had a friend who 3D printed CSGO butterfly knives and was selling them at school. I don't know why he didn't sell them at his house. He lived right by the school, but he did, and I bought one and got caught. He and I, alongside a mutual friend who helped him 3D print other items, but specifically said he wouldn't help with the knives, were all put into the guidance counselor's office and suspended for 3 days. When we asked why we were being suspended for having toys, they said that in prison they won't let people have toothbrushes because they can kill each other with them. I have a fucking toothbrush. I'm around pencils and scissors in school all day. It's a toy knife, which people like not only because they're cool, but because you can do tricks with butterfly knives, which I'm experienced with. I seriously started to think I was a prisoner. At the very end of the year, they took us 8th graders on a trip to Catalina Island, and it was fucking miserable. It was a super religious thing. It was all work, and there was no technology. At the very end of the trip, we had a bonfire where we could talk about our experiences, and everyone would just cry or express their phony gratitude. A few people were genuine, but most were overly reliant, weak pieces of shit, and I said so. Everyone booed me away, but my real friends cheered me when I returned to our seats. I was a complete outcast at this point and was being berated, not bullied, but genuinely yelled at by my peers out of passion and hatred towards me, and decided to skip the last days of school. High school really picked up for me though. I was able to make meaningful friends, and I wasn't left with the feeling that it was just because I was already friends with some of these people. Even people I wasn't friends with before became my friends, and the more divided nature of high school made it a lot easier to find cliques rather than being on a social hierarchy. I'm not sure how it is in Warrowsville, Iowa, but there was too much diversity for anyone to give a shit about each other. I think the great friends I've made have been the main reason I'm where I am, but I was able to manage very well except for one shitty math teacher who put no effort into her work, lost assignments, and played major favorites. I had a lot of issues with this teacher, but since my mom didn't believe anything I'd say, and she thought I was a problem. In that class, there were a lot of phony pieces of shit, and they were responsible for me feeling out of place throughout that year. I also felt this way because I'd started to deviate politically from my peers. This was the year after the election, so California was a raging hornet's nest, and I was being exposed to a lot of ideas and being told that people who disagreed were evil, racist, sexist, backwards people. I'd never seen a Republican, so I took this rhetoric hook, line, and sinker. I started seeing more videos on YouTube popping up, like SJW cringe compilations and such, and just seeing these ideas of mine presented so ridiculously and deflated so easily really shook me. I guess it was some alt-right rabbit hole, but I started to look at why people held opposing beliefs. No matter where you stand politically, I think the most important thing is to understand and empathize with what your political opponent believes, if not just to strengthen your arguments, but to keep the conversation healthy and avoid political tension like we see now. I started watching videos from PragerU and people like Ben Shapiro, and I definitely was exposed to new viewpoints. I didn't agree with everything conservatives said, but I would have said I aligned right at the time. My mom was furious I didn't agree with her and became physically and emotionally abusive. This is when I realized that she wasn't perfect. One thing I'd never considered was coming from a broken home, and I really reflected on my life. I tried to reconnect with my dad, and although he didn't like what I was saying, he respected me a lot more. A lot of my peers started to genuinely hate me, and I was being a cocky brat who thought he knew more than everyone just because I knew more than a bunch of affluent white liberals whose parents make more than $80K each. That math teacher used my peers' hatred towards me as an argument for me being a problem student and told my mom I made other students uncomfortable. She was literally punishing me for thinking differently. My friends were in a similar boat to me, and most of the more minority students weren't really politically involved. I began to feel a racial identity crisis, though. I was a Mexican nerdy loser who held radical political beliefs. Most minorities thought I was too cringy and weird and didn't respect me, and most white people thought I wasn't behaving how I should for my race. They should be commenting on how well I spoke English, not my opinion on the economy or social movements. I was too white for brown people and too brown for white people. In my many crises, I tried turning to religion, which was also due to conservative influence. This is when I felt I went overboard because I started to think a way of thinking could change my life. I tried religion, but immediately became so disillusioned I dropped my entire belief system and rebuilt it from the ground up. I'd say I'm a lot more of a libertarian now, and not one of those fake ones who just says so to get people to not consider the vast differences in ideology. Nobody can know anything about politics, and nobody has the objective rule. No idea is right enough to enforce it. I like to understand how people think and want to get along with people regardless of their belief systems. These very logical principles would come to cause me great mental turmoil. Entering sophomore year, I reunited with an old middle school friend who was a year younger. I made a lot of my friends mad when I said Fortnite was bad. I know, super brave take. I played it when I was locked on console because my PC was broken, but I quickly found better games like Bloodborne and Dragon Ball FighterZ. And once my PC was fixed, I never looked back. I'm full PC master race, and I remembered how liberating it was to play shooters when I'm right in front of the monitor with a mouse and keyboard. So I caught up on... Okay. Guys, this story is not even halfway through. You know, he's just talking about the computer games he likes. Should I finish this one, or should we save it for next time? My throat's getting a little tired, if you can't tell. The story sucks. I'll just do a poll real quick. Okay. Story. End it now or finish. Now, I should be clear that there will not be another story after this one. I try to keep these around 2 hours, and I'm just done. I'm kind of done being here with this fucking story. At 70% saying end it now. Oh, now that I said I'm ending the stream, now the votes are changing. Can I search for Lolly? No, I cannot. I'm sure there's plenty of them in there, though. I'm not tired of angsty teens. I'm just tired of this story, and there's not really time to read another whole one. So I'll hang out with you guys for a few more minutes, but it looks like we're done with this story. Although it is getting a lot closer now. It's 53% say end it. It is what it is, YouTube. These stories suck. I'm sorry, the dank. I'm sure this one gets really interesting later on, so I'll take a look at it later and maybe we'll finish it next episode. Patchy's wife says stop the count. I did, and it ended at 51% for end it now. Best of Reddit stories. Yeah, this is a pretty Reddit story so far. Fuck, I voted wrong. What are my thoughts on the cheese room? I've heard that only the best people used to be in it. Nice stream, Monkey Man. See you next year. Hey, thank you, Avian Jones. I like the me as Jesus profile picture that you have. Are you enjoying One Piece? I think Eglin arc is bow. I don't know what that means, but I've been loving the recent arc. I think it's the best one after the time skip for sure. What do I think about Turkey Tom fighting Leafy? For all I know, you're making that up. I haven't heard anything about that. Mumkey Sing, I got one for you on stream. Is that the name of a song? I mean, my throat is fucked after talking for 2 hours straight, but I can sing for you. Have I read Red Moth's masterpiece, The Triflers 2? I believe we did read that on an episode of... It might have been the Mumkey and Big Show. It was on some podcast. I think we read one chapter and said this shit sucks. I was making it up. What a smart guy. Oh, thank you, Candor. Smegma Gilf Gooners. I'm expecting to get a lot of Gilf stories between now and the next episode. Do I like Cormac McCarthy? I've only read Blood Meridian, and I thought it was fine. I was not in love with it. It does have some good characters, though. I like the judge or whatever his name was. He was good. Why did your hair looks like that in the new upload? That was me the day before getting a new haircut. So I just said, fuck it, I'm not combing it. I'm just gonna get out of the shower, and whatever it does, I'll keep it that way. Triflers 2 greater than Triflers 1? That's probably fair. I've not read House of Leaves. Finally, he acknowledges Smegma? What do you mean? What do you mean by that? I'll search Smegma, see if any stories pop up. Smegma. Nope, no stories. That's a shocker. The judge is literally big. He's pale, white, and bald, and like 8 feet tall. I don't think that's Biggs. When am I linking up with Digi? I don't know. Blood Meridian would have been better if it wasn't written the way it was. I was fine with how it was written. I just didn't think the story had a whole lot going on. I might be missing out on something. Smegma bros. Hey, you guys can submit your Smegma stories and we can do a whole Smegma fucking episode next week. I'm fine by that. Oh, it's Yog Studios now, bigot. My bad. I did see Digibro retired and then unretired, and now is like live streaming to an upwards of 10 people. So, you know, good on you, Digi. Do it for the love of the craft, not for the views. That's right. But anyway, that is 2 weeks in a row. Depression Chamber streams. Can't believe we did it, folks. What a time to be alive. If you would like to submit your own stories to be read next week, send them to TheDepressionChamber@gmail.com. And I think I'm about to get the fuck out of here. Hey, The Medea video has not been taken down yet. If you have somehow not watched it, even though it's been uploaded 3 times and gotten 8,000 views all 3 times. So, you know, there's a pretty good chance you've already seen it. But if not, go check that one out. I'm pretty proud of that one. And stay tuned for my new video this coming Wednesday about the cheese room. And I'll see you guys next time.